at what point are you hiding from your life? You can still have a good life. In your mind, you're like, it's good enough because the hurt isn't hurting enough to fix anything. But when you have felt better, because now you're putting the effort, you're doing the things like being mindful about it, being intentional about it, it's better. But there's best out there. And I am going to keep working for best. I am never going to be satisfied with good.
A lot of men out there are not willing to do the hard work, but they want the results. Everybody wants the quick fix. Everyone wants the magic pill. Everyone wants the red button to do whatever. Once they push it, like my life suddenly turns on a dime and everything's great. And I will tell you that.
Hey, Larry, how's it going?
Gina, what's going on? So good to be here.
It's so good to talk to you and meet you finally. Just mom life over here. It is. I'm not going to say drowning because that would be a lie. This baby, for like my fourth baby, she's an angel. She makes me look really good.
So how new is your baby? How new is this fourth baby?
She's 6 weeks.
What? You had a baby 6 weeks ago?
I did have a baby 6 weeks ago. She's been a co-host on the Revitalized Womanhood podcast a few times already.
Dang. Well, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
Having a baby 6 weeks ago. And
There is a big difference between postpartum depression after a C-section and not having postpartum depression after a C-section. And This is the difference.
Yeah, you kind of glow. I mean, you look fantastic. So good for you.
That is the baby glow. I kind of pinch her whenever Rick's around, so she cries, so he thinks she's hard. But she's really not.
She's pretty easy. That's cool. That's awesome.
It's really easy.
Yeah.
So you have 4 boys?
I do, and our fourth one was pretty easy as well. I just kind of wonder if like that fourth one just like, oh, like you've been around the block. I get the sense you know what you're doing, so they just kind of like chill, I think.
I think anybody out there that has a fourth that was not easy wants to punch us both in the face.
Probably, yeah. Should probably edit all that out, right? Just for the people who have had, they're like, well, my fourth kid was terrible.
You just triggered a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, I am so happy to have you here because I know that we both are so aligned in the mission, in the work we're doing. And I mean, feel free to cut me off or whatever, because this is just, I'm excited for a really good conversation about the differences and the similarities in having a men's community versus a women's community. When you get them working together, beautiful things happen, magic happens. And I'm going to tell you what, 5 new babies came out of the magic that happens. Yes, there have been 5 births in the last 6 months in the Revitalized Sisterhood community, and 4 of which were like old ladies like me, like not planned. They already have like 5 kids or 4 kids or one that couldn't even have kids. I mean, it's, I believe, a direct result of these beautiful marriages being strengthened through both the men being in a men's community and the women being in a women's community.
You know, it's funny. We've had the Alliance now since 2016, and we always joke, we're like, man, our family has grown. Meaning like, the families and the guys in the group have grown, like honestly, like kids, people having new kids and that kind of thing. So yeah, I feel you on that one. That's awesome.
I think this work is so important. What, let me ask you this for whoever's listening and doesn't know, what inspired you? 2016? Wow, you've been doing this. You've been in it. What inspired you to start this?
I mean, mine was, my inspiration came from, I think, just my childhood, to be honest. I grew up in a sort of non-traditional environment, but then again, I think that's pretty much almost everybody at this point. Like, used to be like, oh, this story is unique. It's really not that unique. I mean, I guess it's somewhat unique, but it's everybody's got a story and everybody's got, a thing. But I guess for me, Dad Edge really probably got started when I was a kid because I really, really wanted a dad in my life. And I never really experienced a fully functional one. And it was very odd. So like my mom and biological father, they got married pretty young. I think they got married when they were like 21 in like 1971. And then they had me in 75. And then like 9 months after I was born, my mom and dad got divorced. And it was a really ugly, horrible divorce. Like my dad, just completely left. And I have no recollection of my dad. whatsoever. And my mom actually got remarried when I was 4. And I'll never forget that. And that guy actually adopted me. That's actually why I have the last name that I do, is because he adopted me. But like, I remember like that guy entering my life and my mom and him getting married. And I actually thought that that's how dads came about. Like, moms go out and find dads, and kids magically appear from the stork, and mom goes just go out and eventually find a dad for the family and bring him home. And that's what I thought she did. Kind of a funny thing. Even the very first day I met the guy, the very first thing I said to this guy when I was 4 years old is I looked up at him and I just said, "Are you going to be my dad?" Like, when I first met him. So, because I really wanted one. But they were together for about 6 years. They got divorced when I was 10. But this guy was a disaster. He was a white collar data software engineer. He was white. You know, he made great money, which allowed my mom to stay home. But he was a big drinker, and he drank pretty hardcore. And then he got pretty abusive when he drank. And he would beat up on me. He'd beat up on my mom. And I mean, cops were called to my house. But I mean, like, I'm almost 50 years old, and I mean, I remember getting hit as a kid, but that was pretty common. It wasn't uncommon for you or your friends to get hit. You know, that was pretty common back then. But yeah, I was hit a lot, and a lot of it was like drunken outbursts, you know, and it was pretty crazy. But he left when I was 10. I've never seen him since. Actually, I found out about 15 years ago he died.
Oh,
I had
wow.
no idea. I had a court clerk come to my house and knock on the door and serve me papers saying that he had left a house and it was mine if I wanted it. And I told her, I was like, "I don't want the house. You can give it to the
Yeah.
state, give it to the city. I don't care. I don't want it." And she left. But when I was 12, I started asking a lot of questions. You know, I'm like, "Well, where did I come from? Like this guy came into my life at 4. Like, where did I come from?" And my mom was like, "Wow, I was actually married before him." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I had no idea. And she's like, "Yeah, you've got a dad out there." And I'm like, "Where is he? What's his name? What does he look like? Where does he live?" And she's like, "I don't know." She's like, "Here's the wedding album, though. This is what he looks like. Here's his name." When I was 12, come to find out, to make a really long story short, like super short, I met him when I was 12, and it was by
Mm.
accident. And he lived 3 miles from us. I had no idea. And he was married, remarried at the time, had a 2-year-old son, another one on the way. And when I met him, I was like over the moon. I was ecstatic. Like, my real dad was back in my life. And we hung out like every week. Like, he came to my little league baseball games and he hung out with me all the time. And I was like, I immediately started calling him dad. And then, like, after about 6 months, I just noticed a difference in the energy of our relationship. And it just seemed like the best way I can describe it was he just seemed like he was a little bit under duress and kind of like distant a little bit. And I remember calling him one day and asking him like what was going on. And I'll be honest, Gina, I don't remember all the details of that conversation. In fact, I don't remember any of them. All I know is that was the end of our relationship and we parted
Mm.
ways. And my mom continued to date and she got remarried one more time, but she dated multiple guys in my childhood and they were all like the same dudes, just the partiers, the drunks, you know, the abusers. Like, that was it. And yeah, I went on to lead a pretty normal life despite all that. I went on to high school and went on to college and got my degree in sports medicine and a minor in nutrition, and then went into medical sales and got married. And my wife and I were pregnant 20 years ago with our very first son. And I was in a coffee shop here in St. Louis for a business meeting, and who came walking in for his morning coffee but my dad. And I hadn't seen him since I was 12. So it'd been 18
Whoa.
years. Yeah.
Listen,
And
the universe keeps plunking this guy down into your life at the most random moments.
it was pretty crazy, not gonna lie. And so anyway, one thing led to another. That was 20 years ago, and we still have a relationship to this day, and it's a good one. He's still married to the same woman. He's been married for about 45 years. I have 2 younger half brothers that I'm really, really close to. My youngest brother and I are very close. But it's been a lot of work, you know, and I'll tell you, Dad Edge got started because when I got married and started having kids, I was like, I'm not going to do what was done to me growing up. And I'll tell you, Dad Edge got started, and it wasn't because of like a really beautiful moment. It got started because my 4-year-old, who's now 17, stepped out of line one day, and I promised myself I would never hit my kids in anger when I became a dad. And I broke that promise.
Mm.
And I spanked my son. And unfortunately, I spanked him. This is like burned into my mind, but I spanked him so hard that he fell. And when I went to go pick him up, I was like, oh my God, like what the hell did I just do? And I went to go pick him up, and like I went to go hold him like this, and he rolled back over, and he like saw me coming, and he just like closed his eyes, and he like just shuddered in fear. And I was like, oh my God, like what have I done? And that was it. That was it. That's how Dad Edge got started. I was like, I'm done trying to figure this out and guess. I'm gonna learn how to do this. And that's what the podcast has been over the past 10 years. It's been learning how to do this whole marriage thing. It's learning how to do fatherhood, learning how to be a better man. And I'll tell you, it doesn't come without learning skills to do so. And I think a lot of us just and I was one of them. I was winging it. I was just trying to figure it out, just winging it. And it was disastrous for me.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's trying to figure it out without having the tools or the equipment, right? Have you ever done something like it's like making a cake with the oven mitts already on your hands and using a screwdriver and a drill rather than a beater and it's like having all of these things because we weren't taught. That wasn't a thing when we were younger. Having this discussions around, I'm not saying gentle parenting. Oh my gosh, I saw a reel the other day that was like this girl throwing a crazy fit in Walmart, like
I
breaking
saw that.
everything. And
I
everybody's like
saw
so
that.
scared to touch this girl. And I'm like, oh my gosh. No, that's insane. That's insanity. However, talking to our kids about like when it was forced on us that you have to learn your ABCs, you have to learn your numbers versus maybe let's learn our emotions first. Maybe let's learn what happiness feels like and what sadness feels like and what anger feels like. I'm actually going through that because I wasn't that way with my first two. And now my third is 4 years old, and he's starting to watch his 10-year-old brother he's very, very big emotions. So that's why I'm doing all the parenting coaching. I'm doing all the work to try to help him. But now I'm seeing it come through in my 4-year-old who instead of talking through things like we would want him to, he's just instantly hitting, right? Or instantly screaming or instantly. And I'm just like, oh no, you got to stop this before it starts, right? But we didn't have the tools that we have now. And I think the next generation's even going to be hopefully better off, not worse off, because like I said, we have these two total different, like gentle parenting, this versus just teaching kids emotional intelligence, right? And how
Yeah,
to work through stuff. But we have to have the emotional intelligence first to be able to do that.
we do. Yeah. The best lessons are caught, not taught. And
Yeah.
if we're not willing to learn those things, then, how can we expect them to learn it?
So you asked me, what do we want to talk about? And it is so I'm forgive me, I do have a little bit of the mom brain. I am gonna fall on that a little bit. I've got some great questions here just in case. But the basic concept of what I really want to get out of you, you have this men's community that's been going and successful for so many years. I have it, we're going on 3 years now for this women's community. And the differences we see in our communities, I want to talk about those differences, but I want to talk about the similarities as well. So that because I believe that when those communities can work together, it creates what we want most, and that is whole families with a husband and wife working together as a team rather than competition. If you will give me a second to read this, I think you have heard it probably, this reel, and it's men and women are not the same, and that is a blessing. He provides and protects, I multiply. He is the head of the family, I am the heart. He provides the shelter, I give it a heartbeat. He provides the ingredients, I make the meal. He provides the house, I make it a home. He takes care of my outer world, I take care of his inner world. He gave me love, I gave him life. Our roles complement rather than compete. Where God created two from one, two became one in marriage. Equal value, equal honor, equally needed in family. And I think that is just like, even me, I'm going to throw my husband and myself under the bus here in our marriage because we are working to repair things. We are working to build the skills to make this a truth in both of our minds because society has worked to make it not a truth in both of our minds. And so we are now working to make it a truth where it's a partnership, because I am a stay-at-home mom. And so one of our biggest fights is it's not, what's the word? There's no value on it as far as monetary value, right? My work is not seen as a job. My 13-year-old just had a career day and his teacher said, you can't just stay home and watch your mom. It's not a job. And I get what she's saying, but I about lost it. But, I want to talk about, what do you see as one of the biggest problems in a men's community as far as this goes?
So this is a really good question. I love the fact that you're doing this work, because if we can have the man do his work, right, and the woman do her work, and I'm talking about personal development, growth, and learning the skills of operating like this, we're just going to be better. We will absolutely be better versus that one person doing the work. I would say, though, in our, you asked about just problems and that kind of thing in our men's community. So I would say one of the biggest problems that a man faces is looking in the reflection and being okay with that, the man who's staring back at you in that mirror, that's actually a really good investment to make. That's the biggest battle, because a lot of guys and this is kind of a triggering question for me. So I'm going to get a little triggered, because I see a lot of guys, I get a lot of emails from men who are just like, and it's always the same thing. My marriage is I got 3 emails last week. My marriage is a total wreck. I'm not sure what to do. One guy messaged me last week. His name is Carl. He's like, my marriage is pretty much at the end of its rope. I don't know what to do. And I asked him, I was like, can you give me some more context of what's going on? And he spilled out all this detail, and basically like full ownership in how he hasn't shown up. And he's like, and I'm just pretty sure that the last paragraph was like the one that kind of just stung the most. He basically said, I've grown to accept that this marriage will be coming to an end in the near future, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. And I will tell you, that's a guy who's not investing in himself. And that's a guy who is literally sitting on the sidelines, watching his life fall apart and not doing a thing about it. And somehow, some way being okay with it. I don't understand that mindset. I don't want to understand that mindset. I don't like that mindset. That's just me. I will not allow my life just to simply crumble in front of my eyes and not do a thing about it and be the victim. And I think a lot of guys out there, when they see something like that happening, they immediately want to take action. But a lot of times it's not for the long term. Like everybody wants the quick fix. Everyone wants the magic pill. Everyone wants the red button to do whatever. Once they push it, like my life suddenly turns on a dime and everything's great. And I will tell you that if you want to lead a fulfilling life, if you want to build an absolutely bulletproof marriage, if you want to have an incredible connection with your kids, no matter what age they are, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm sorry, not sorry, but this work never actually ends.
Yep.
You have to keep learning, because your kids are going to evolve. They're not going to be 8 years old forever. They're going to be 12. They're going to be a preteen. There's differences there. Then they're going to be a teenager. There's differences there. Then they're going to be 18 and basically entering the adult world. There's differences there. There's different things you got to learn. And then it's, you've got to learn and grow and evolve in your marriage as well. Like, you've got to learn skills to communicate. I love the fact that you start, with what you saw on social media, because I do think that there is a role for each one of us to play. And I think that one is absolutely accurate. But here's where I see the biggest problems. I see men over time, and this is where I get very, 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 very triggered. And that is because my life has already been a disaster a couple of times, to where I almost lost everything, in my marriage with my kids and everything. And I'm and I will tell you, it really hasn't been that way for almost the past decade. The first decade it was of my marriage, because I've been married for 22 years. The last decade is not. But it has come with the sacrifice and the decision that I'm going to hire a coach every single year to keep learning. And I've done that every single year. I mean, I practice what I preach, and I will never, ever, ever, ever stop learning. And if we want to compare this to sports, I never stopped showing up to practice, like ever. And the thing that triggers me the most is when men come into like a program like Dad Edge or Iron Council or Front Row Dads or whatever else, and they show up for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And they start to see things in their life go well. And then they start to see things in their life go bad again when they let their foot off the gas. And then they stop showing up to practice. They stop learning. And then they'll be like, my life isn't really changing. Like nothing's really different. And I'll challenge those guys and be like, well, are you showing up to practice? Because here's the thing. Like the thing that triggers me the most is that a lot of men out there are not willing to do the hard work, but they want the results. They want the great marriage. They want the connection with their kids. They want the great body. They want all these things. But when it comes to putting in the reps and the work and the practice, right, they get tired over time.
Yeah.
And here's what I tell guys that like, you know, if they want to quit and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, well, my marriage isn't really getting any better. I'm like, when was the last time you showed up to a call team? When was the last time you showed up? Oh, it's been like 3 months. I'm like, well, how in God's name, how in the world do you expect things to turn around if you're not putting in the reps, if you're not putting in the time? Like, what do you tell your kid when they're playing football or whatever other sport that they want and they're bitching about they get no play time, but yet they're not showing up to practice? What's your message to that kid? Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, we need to talk to your coach. No, your message to that kid is, we'll show up to practice and you might get played. Yeah. Like that, it takes consistency and work. Like you're not going to get reps on the field unless you're putting reps in practice. So one of the biggest things that I see with men is that they're willing to put in work for a short amount of time. Then they get tired. But they expect that the results will keep coming after they've stopped putting in the work. And that's where I think is the real danger.
It's like you go to the gym and you get your perfect body and you're like, I've done it. Bye.
Yeah.
Peace out. I don't have to do it anymore. It's like, no, all of us know that all it takes is 1 week of eating like we do to be like, oh, wait, crap. I got to get back to the gym.
Yeah, I got to get back to the gym. Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting about that? I actually love that was your answer, because that is the exact biggest problem in the women's community, that they look in that mirror and they don't feel like they deserve to be investing in themselves. Now, I think with women, I'm going to speak it from my experience. I think with women, it is a little different because they've mostly been told by whatever the forces that be, Instagram, social media, society, whatever, that their job is to be pleasing. Their job is to be at home, doing the home life, doing the things. So instead of making it something that they maybe look at as, this is a miracle, this is incredible, I'm so lucky to do this work, I love this work, it feels put upon. And so you start to see all of this messaging coming across that's like, you know what I cannot stand? I'm going to tell you about what really bothers me is the crap that comes across that is like husband bashing. Like, Dad, I did a whole research thing on it about the TV and how it shows men as idiots and ignorant and can't do anything for their families other than go to work and create a paycheck. And I cannot stand that kind of media. And then on the other side of that, also motherhood. It's so hard. I'm so put upon, the hot mess mom, which I wasn't saying it in the way that I like hate my life, not like that at all. But I tell my women, there's good, better, best. You can have a good life. You can have a good life. You can struggle to get up in the morning. You can see your husband and give him a kiss in passing. You can yell at your kids. You can still have a good life. That you can still, in your mind, you're like, it's good enough because the hurt isn't hurting enough to fix anything. But when you have felt better, or when you have felt best, when you are getting up on time, when you are going to the gym, when you have a set schedule for yourself, when you're not over giving yourself to other people pleasing, when you have good boundaries, when you are flirting with your husband, you are intentional about having date nights and sexy time, right? When you have these kinds of moments, it's taking something that was good, But because now you're putting the effort, you're doing the things, like being mindful about it, being intentional about it, it's better. But there's best out there. And I am going to keep working for best. I am never going to be satisfied with good or better, because I'm going to keep working for best, because I felt it. I felt the difference between good and better and best. And so that's what makes me want to keep going. But like you're saying, until people feel that and are mindful of that, they're just wanting this quick Amazon 2-day delivery. And it's like, I'm not willing to wait a week for this. I'm not willing to wait 2 months for this. Oh, it's not working. I asked one of my women, who is the one that I told you about that sat outside the door listening in, because she was so wanting a community for women. And she said, I asked her, I said, how long before you started getting those moments of, oh my gosh, this work is actually working? This, what I've been doing, because you got to go through some suck to get into some good. You got to go backwards, I think, before you go forwards, because there's lots of scabs you have to pick to be able to heal the right way and move forward, right? It's like breaking a bone. Sometimes it has to be rebroken. And she said it was probably a good 5 or 6 months. And I said, me too. I totally agree with that number. Me too. And that's people that are hitting it hard, doing the work. So yeah, like you're saying, when people come into this, when women come into this, and after 2 months come to me and say, oh, this isn't working. And I'm like, well, what have you put into it? What have you been doing to get back what you're expecting? And they can't give me the right answer, because they haven't been doing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the support in having men doing this work and women doing this work at the same time. Because I, unfortunately, and you probably have as well, I've heard this from the other side. Like when I've been saying, hey, why aren't all these husbands like so excited for their wives to be doing this work? I've heard back on the other side of this, men saying, my wife won't do the work, or how do I help her be excited about this kind of work? And vice versa, right? It cuts both ways. What do you do when men come to your calls and say, my wife is not interested in this whatsoever. She would rather just sit on the couch, watching her soaps. I don't know, is that still a reference? Watching Netflix, eating her bonbons. It's the Peggy Bundy of wife and motherhood. How do you help them?
So, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'll never forget interviewing Gary John Bishop. Are you familiar with who he is?
I'm not.
He wrote the book Unfuck Yourself.
Oh, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I haven't read that yet, but yes, I know of the book.
He's a great guy. He's written, I think, 6 or 7 books now, and every time he writes a book, I have him on the show, and we joke about it. We're one of these days we're going to start the Larry and Gary show, because like he comes on every time he launches a new book, because it's always so good. But he actually spoke at our first event that we ever did, which was the Dad Ed Summit year 1, which was back in 2018. And so he was our very first like keynote speaker, and I'll never forget it, because like he said something that I thought was so good, and because one of the guys in the group had literally the exact question that you just asked.
Awesome.
And he said, and I agree with him. He said, gentlemen, I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to save you a lot of time and frustration. You can either sleep with your wife or you can coach her, but you can't do both. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. Now, I think
I have an opinion.
Well, I mean, like, I would love to know your opinion. I'll share with you like our experience, but like I've noticed in my relationship, and I've also noticed this in other relationships, that as soon as a guy starts learning stuff and then he starts taking big steaming piles of should all over his wife, which is like, hey, I just learned this. You should check this out, or you should do this, or you should read this book, or you should think this way. Like the woman is just like, okay, now you're just pissing me off. Like you're just annoying the hell out of me. So instead, what we do is we're like, don't tell her, show her. Like if you're going to be like this 2.0 man in this 2.0 growth mindset and personal development and learning skills as a husband and a father, don't tell her about it, and don't push her into doing her thing. Show her. Just show her. Just be the example, be the guy who's learning, be the guy who's implementing, and don't make a huge deal of it. Don't do it because you want validation from her. Don't do it because you want like that stamp of approval. Do it because you know what? And this is where I just kind of like stand toe to toe with guys. Do it because that's what a man does. That's what a man does. A man takes action. A man will go learn the skills to be a better dad. A man will go learn the skills to build a better marriage, and he will do it without the desperate, needy need of being like, oh, you're pretty cool, or the validation.
The pat
thing.
on the back.
Just the pat on the back. Just go out
like my
and
10-year-old.
do it. Yeah. Don't be a man child. Be a man.
I give my 10-year-old a pat on the back because he's my son, and I want him to feel that. So that my opinion is, I don't want to have sex with my dad.
Exactly.
I don't. So when you come to me, and this is funny because this happened with Rick and myself, and it wasn't in a way that he wasn't pushing it, but he was just so excited about all the things he was learning and all the books he was reading, and it was just blowing his mind. So he was excited to share it with me. And so he did, in fact, back off when I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm listening to my, what is it? The House of Thorns, Fire and whatever. And, I had 8 vacation rentals that I was cleaning at that time and listening to all of this. It's not garbage. I love it. I'm not going to say that, but I do feel like now that I have gone to the other side, that part of me will admit that that's kind of hiding from your life. When women get so deeply, and man, I'm going to get murdered for this on anybody messages for this, but when women are so deeply connected to reading all of these books on like fantasy and whatever, don't get me wrong, it's a good time every now and again, but at what point are you hiding from your life? Are these characters in these stories you're trying to relate to that are mythical characters? They're not even real characters. Versus if you can read something like The Mountain Is You, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or whatever, right? All the greats. If you can read these books, it's like holding a mirror in front of your face. And sometimes we don't like that because it's helping us point out the things that are like, we're not doing the best that we can do. And it points those things out. So that's what I mean. So Rick, he was sweet to not push. I mean, in other things he has, and that's how I came up with the I do not want to have sex with my father. And he gets that comment sometimes, but it had to happen for myself. I had to come, but it was him doing it and doing all these things and showing me how he was bettering himself and becoming this different version of himself that I finally was like, oh, okay, let me give this a try. And it was after I had postpartum depression, after my 3rd baby was a traumatic C-section after 18 hours of labor. I thought I was dying. I thought I was going to die. And then, of course, bam, with the postpartum depression afterwards. And like I created an island on my bed for me and this baby, and the rest of the world could just suck it. And coming out of that, I was like, well, who am I? What am I even doing? I was 39 at the time, and I'm like, gosh, what's the purpose of just like the hamster wheel? And at this time, I hadn't been really living on a hamster wheel. We'd traveled to over, at that time, probably 50 countries. Like, that's not a hamster wheel. But it was, because guess who's coming along to all those countries? The same mindset. The same Gina, the same, all the things pre these new tools. And so it just clicked. And now since I've started Revitalized Womanhood and the Revitalized Sisterhood community, it's just like, and like I said in the beginning, is a marriage when you have both of you working on yourselves and not coaching, like you said, not coaching each other, but supporting each other and encouraging each other. That's the number one community. That is where community needs to start. It starts with self, and it starts with partnership. And it's incredible.
So well said. And it's so true. I love that.
I kind of went down the path there, but I totally believe in it. And I know you believe in it as well. So that's exactly, I will support you when women say to me, how can I do this kind of work when I've got this husband that he doesn't support me, he doesn't support himself, whatever. And I'm just like, just do you. What can you control? You have to do you. You control you. So if he's a naysayer over here, just for me, I'd be working even harder on me, because that's like, I can control this.
I would agree. And the other thing too is that your husband might be quietly like starving for inspiration. Like,
Yeah.
he's not going to tell you that. He's not going
No.
to tell you like he needs encouragement, he needs inspiration or whatever. But if he sees you start to take action, his wife taking action and like getting better and improving herself, I will tell you, I don't know many men out there that are just like, I should probably do something. Like, there's a lot of guys out there that get really, really encouraged by that. And they're like, well, shit, man, if she's doing it, like, I'm kind of supposed to be leading us. Like, I need to be doing this. And I think a lot of guys will come along for the ride on that one.
How do you think, in your opinion, can we talk to women about how to best support their men?
Well, number one, it's I think the same rules apply. If you nag a guy on what he could be doing better, it's not gonna deal well at all. I would tell you, and this is where I think women, like guys, I think can be pretty direct with guys. And I think that we can call each other. In our group, we're going to call you forward. We're not going to call you out because that's disrespectful. There's ways that you can call a man forward, call a man quote unquote out without
I love that.
completely humiliating him and insulting him, right? Or emasculating him. Calling a man forward is a man who's like, hey man, I see you and I see that you're not operating nearly at the level that I know you can and that I've seen you operate. And I'm going to call you forward and challenge you to think differently, right? So like maybe it's fitness. Like, hey man, I've noticed over the past few weeks you've put on some weight. And I know your fitness is really, really important to you. How can I help you? How can I support you in getting back to the gym? Because I know that is something that is really important to you. And I think when a man calls another man forward like that, that's an incredible invite. That's not insulting. That's a guy that's like, that dude cares about me. And it kind of sucks to be embarrassed like this and be called out. But at the same time, I appreciate that, right? Now, if a woman says, hey, I've noticed you've gotten a little out of shape, you should hit the gym. A guy is like, that sucks. Like, that just absolutely sucks. And that is not going to be something he's going to want to hear.
Yeah.
Especially from his wife. That's going to probably kill a man's soul a little bit. At the same time, if you're just simply going to the gym and you're getting fitter and you're eating healthier and he starts to ask you questions about it and you just simply share with him what you're doing and why versus like, hey, you should do this too, that will inspire a man, I think, to take action. Because no guy, I'll just say this for what it is, no guy wants to be outran by his wife. Like, he wants to keep up with her or actually stay ahead of her. One of the two. He doesn't want to be left in the dust. So if she's improving and encouraging and she's not nagging him and all she's doing is sharing all the great things that she's experiencing through her own growth, the guy will get really curious about that one.
You know what's hard in that situation? I actually wanted to go somewhere else with that, but this came up is those men who are unwilling to, and there's women too. So don't get me wrong, there's women too. But the men who are unwilling to see their own growth as important. And so it becomes, like I said in here, a competition where it's like, or he's the man child and it's like, I'm going to put you back in your place. I'm going to put you where you need to be. I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to help you, but I'm going to belittle you. I'm going to tell you that this is not what you should be doing, that investing in yourself is actually taking away from our family, that having self-care and self-love is actually making you not pay attention to your kids like you should. Oh my gosh, you're going to get a pedicure? What? You're going to the gym? What are your kids doing while this is happening? Someone else is raising your kids? There's a lot of that gets thrown around as well. And that's unfortunate. But I'm not a man hater. I'm going to take the side. I know that there's women who do the same things, who will belittle their husbands and that kind of thing. So
Can I
I don't know
talk
that
on that?
there's a question in there.
Can I just give a
Yes,
comment to that?
please
Okay. I'm gonna get a little fiery here if that's okay.
get fiery.
Yeah. So here's what I'll tell you. This is what pisses me off. And it pisses me off because I used to be this guy. And
Mm,
nothing pisses off a human being more than seeing a reflection of bad traits that that person either has or had, right?
right.
So when I first became a dad and when I first became a husband, I did the typical thing of like, well, I just need to just basically throw myself on the sacrificial sword of everything, do everything for everybody else. And what does that mean? Work myself into the absolute ground
Yeah.
and have no margin left over for anybody, because that's what a real man does, is he works himself into the ground to provide financial means for his kids and his wife, while also completely exhausting himself, burning himself out and overwhelming himself, because that's what a man does, right? The other thing too is, well, I'm over 30, so I can't possibly be fit anymore. So like, I'm just going to
Mm,
get fat and I'm going to eat what I want. And oh, by the way, on the weekends, I'm going to drink a shit ton of beer so I don't have to worry about my life or think about my life of how like kind of like unfulfilled and depressing it is because I'm doing everything for everybody else. And then we surround ourselves. Here's the other thing too. We surround ourselves with either nobody and we're living life all by ourselves. We don't have those mentors or those strong men, speaking words of encouragement and affirmations and challenging us and calling us forward. We hang out with other dudes who have the exact same mindset of like, I'm burnt out, I'm overwhelmed, life just sucks. It's all about the wife, it's all about these kids. I'm burnt and I'm just going to drink my problems away, or I'm just going to eat my problems away, or whatever. And here's what I'll tell you. Wake the hell up, okay? And here's why. Every single guy and listening to this podcast or mine, it doesn't matter. If you're married and you have kids, there's something so deep within you that wants to be those kids' heroes, that wants to be your wife's hero, that wants to be like this shining example of what it means to be a good, healthy mind and body, fit, physically fit, mentally fit, emotional IQ, a dad who's not overwhelmed, a dad who's full of life, a dad who's playful. That's what a man really wants. And unfortunately, what happens is we run in the direction of killing ourselves, burning ourselves out, not learning anything new, not growing, getting out of shape, getting fat, not doing a thing about it, and then not living life with other men who are going to challenge you to live the life forward. And then you get to the end of your life and you're like, holy shit, that sucked. I barely survived.
yeah.
And now, like, I'm on my deathbed, and what the hell do I have to show for it? Holy shit, I wish I would have done things a little different. And this is where I'll tell you, you've got one shot at this thing, one shot for your kids, for you to go to the pool with your kids and your kids to be like, see that guy over there? That's my dad.
Yeah.
That's my dad, right? The guy who's playing with us in the pool, the guy who's throwing my 6-year-old brother into the water and he's like lit up and he's laughing and all that. The guy who is asleep, drunk at noon on vacation because he wants a vacation from his everyday miserable life. That's not the life that I want. And I
Yeah.
guarantee that's not the life that any man wants, but that's the life that we'll settle for because that's the rut that we get into.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll tell you. You're doing this work and so am I. My goal, and I think your goal is the same, is to positively disrupt this generation of men and fathers to be like, hey man, I know what you really want. Like at the heart of who you are, I know deep down what you really want and you're not doing it. But here's the path to go do it. Here's the work to go do it. And here's what I'll tell you. Each one of these paths, like take the one where you're asleep at the wheel and you're your 1.0 self, you're your fat, out of shape, miserable, overwhelmed, mediocre marriage, not connected to your kids, working yourself to the bone in your job that you hate, right? That's one life, right?
Yeah.
And we work hard for that, and that life is hard. And guess what? That life is ridiculously hard. And guess what? The other one that's paved with growth, fulfillment, your best body, your best marriage, your best connection with your kids. Both of these roads are insanely hard. Insanely hard. Which one are you going to choose though?
Yeah. Pick your
And
heart.
I've experienced both, right? I refuse to go back down the first one because I've been down that road and I'm like, this sucks. I'll work much harder, but the fulfillment and the fruit of this work is so much better than like settling for, well, this is just the way life is. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I can go toe to toe with you on that, but I don't know that I can do it in 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Because that's what I say. That's what I say to my women. That's what our community, the vibe is. And I love call a man forward. I love that. That is beautiful because with women, Rick actually told me to do something the other day, and I'm like, I cannot do that. I cannot say that because I come across as a bitch or something, right? I cannot. I have to figure out a better way to do it. But when women feel supported, seen, heard, loved, they will do the work. They will
Yes, it
see
will.
that someone is here that actually really truly, I don't need anything from you. These women in this community, we don't need anything from you. We want for you to be able to be your best self, to have the best marriage, to have the best relationship with your kids, to see your life as something that is just spilling over with blessings and the gratitude and the abundance from just everyday life. Like I ground coffee beans the other day and it like lit me up. That's the dumbest thing ever. But to me, that's finding joy in something that I'm doing every day. That makes my life happier. It does. It really does. So it's the same. I'll go toe to toe with you with these women and say everything you're saying is the same for the women. Now, I know there's differences, the language of men, the language of women. I know there's differences, and we could get into that whole nother episode. But anybody listening, women, men listening, you have to work on yourself and then you work together. And that is how you make the dream a reality, right? You have to do the work. And it's pick your heart. You said it beautifully, and I probably just like disrupted it up enough to make it not beautiful, but
It
pick
was
your
totally
heart.
good. Yep. I mean, both, that's, can I tell you just a quick story? I know we're wrapping
Yeah.
up here, but like, so my 18-year-old, this might make me a bit emotional. I mean, I have a bark, but I am a softie. But
Oh, you and
my,
Rick are gonna just get along just fine.
well, we've been texting a lot. I can already tell we've got a
Yeah,
lot
you're
in
like
common.
the same person. It's fine.
You know, my 18-year-old son, he literally, as you and I are wrapping up this podcast, he was in his district finals for wrestling, and you have to get fourth place in district to go to state. My son, bless his heart, like he did little league wrestling when he was 9 and 10 years old, and he hated every minute of it. And he did it for 2 years. And I think in 2 years he won like 4 matches. And he had to go to practice and tournaments with his younger brother, who would come home with a first or second place medal almost every weekend.
Yeah.
Like their records for wrestling were literally inverted. My younger guy was my 7-year-old at the time. He's 17 now. Was like 34-4, and the records were reversed for my oldest, which was 4-34.
Yeah.
You know, so but he got sixth place in districts, and he decided after being away from wrestling for 5 years at his sophomore year of high school, he's like, I think I'm gonna go for the wrestling team. And we're like, and he's in band. He's a band kid, right? So not there's anything wrong with band kids, but like he will even tell you band kids don't wrestle.
Yeah.
And he decided his sophomore year, even though he was like a self-proclaimed band kid who didn't wrestle, he's like, I think I'm gonna go wrestle. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go wrestle. And we're like, why? Like, what? We were just curious. And he's like, I want to do something uncomfortable. I want to do something that
Wow.
challenges me. I actually want to do something that I somewhat hate. That's actually just going to get me in really good shape, and I'll be able to handle life better. And I don't know if it was all the probably growth mindset stuff that we talk about on the podcast, or just the growth mindset stuff we talk about in the house, but he picked up on that, and he went back to wrestling in his sophomore year, and that boy turned into an absolute workhorse. And what I'll tell you is he bawled, and so did I, his last match, because he was that close to going to state, and he was so disappointed. But it was a long shot. Like he knew it was a long shot for him to even get to state. So to even come that close as he did was remarkable. And he cried. And we talked about it. And I was like, you know, this was a hard 3 years. He's like, yeah, it was really hard cutting weight and all these matches. And I think he wrestled 100 matches in 3 years. And he's like, it would have been way harder though. And I really thought that the kid was going to say something like dropping another weight class, because he dropped 2 this past year. He's like, not wrestling for 3 years. And I was like, what? What? And he goes, not wrestling for 3 years. And I did not expect that as he's crying and I'm crying. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, this was hard. This was a hard 3 years. So what would have been harder would be to settle for mediocrity and to settle for wondering if I should have ever wrestled again. And now I know. And it's made me more resilient. It's made me tougher. It's made me stronger. It's given me a better body. It's given me a better mind. I can overcome things. Like, I'm a totally different person than when I was my sophomore year of high school. And there is so much truth to that. I don't even recognize this kid anymore. And I mean that in such a good way. But the fact that my son could actually identify that and say, what would have been harder is not doing this. Like, this was really hard, but would have been really hard is not doing it. I'm like, oh my God, like, you're 18 years old and you understand
From the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just cool.
That is so beautiful. That's amazing. I hope that that's what my kids are picking up as they're growing up in this house. I really do. I hope that's amazing and good for him. That's my mom heart's just right there with you that whole time. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate you.
That one pulled on my heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's also fresh.
It does. And you know what? Doesn't that kind of just feed into your mission and that you are doing the work that you set out to do? Because not only is it the ripple effect of your children, now this is your legacy, right? They're doing it, they're feeling it, they're being inspired, but now you're able to be vulnerable on a podcast and talk about something that's so near and dear and sweet to you. And that's the work. That's the result of the hard, of picking your hard. I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Let's wrap it up. Get you to your appointment.
All right.
Thank you so much for talking with me and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry.